What has triggered this decision to go for an even bigger protest on August the 10th?
Well, it is the defiance of the federal government, especially that of the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. His refusal to accede to our demands and the assault that has been meted on protesters and even journalists like yourself during these last 8 days is what has, gingered us further to get over 1 million people on the streets in each state, each of the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory.
Well, let me ask you for clarification on that, because when you say you're leading 1 million persons march in each of the 36 states and Abuja, do you mean that you're going to mobilize 37 million people across Nigeria, or 1 million people collectively in all the 36 states and Abuja?
37 people across Nigeria.
37
million people across Nigeria.
Well, that's a bit ambitious, isn't it?
Well, we are a country of over 220 million people. So getting 37 million people on the streets to protest against bad governance is not a big deal.
Yeah, but you said that the president had not hearkened to your demands.
Yeah.
I mean, did you just expect to, walk out on the street? I mean, he talked about dialogue. He talked about communicating, sitting down and talking with you. Shouldn't you give them a chance to communicate with you before you then make this move?
There are several means of communication. We do not sit down, we do not dialogue behind closed doors. We asked, for example, here in Abuja, we asked to use the Eagle Square as the venue for convergence for protesters. But the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, denied us that venue, and the place was barricaded by the military and police officers and the DSS. So we are not interested in any closed door meeting or any closed door, behind door dialogue. If the president wants to dialogue, he should come to Eagle Square and speak to Nigerians, millions of Nigerians, both in Nigeria and in the diaspora. He should come speak to us the way he was there on May 29 or on June 12.
Right, so where are you going to hold this march in Abuja, for example? Because you said you were prevented from going to Eagle Square. Last time.
Despite the prevention, right, we've never stopped going there.
So you just take to the streets, basically.
We'll take to the street
right.
Everywhere. We occupy the whole street, the whole country.
And I mean, you've effectively widened the protest twice now. First from a hunger/cost of living march into an end bad governance movement, and from that now it's evolving into 1 million person march on August the 10th, which is 2 days hence. I mean, you've got all your guns blazing, haven't you? You're really piling on the pressure.
Definitely. The president deserves that. The federal government deserves even much more pressure, because the cost of living has exacerbated. People are very hungry. People are hungry. Insecurity keeps on rising across the nation. You go everywhere, you see how every day people just keep buzzing your phone, demanding support, financial support. People are hungry, they can't afford to eat. Now people are being paid 30,000 minimum wage. Now he recently signed and asking people to be paid 70,000 naira per month. 70,000 naira cannot do anything for an average Nigerian. The cost of living has risen over time since he announced the fuel subsidy removal last year. So you don't expect us to just sit at home while the president says, I'm doing something, you guys should go back in, and with time this would happen. But this same man bought private jets. He built a new apartment for his deputy, the vice president, Kashim Shettima. So we're asking him just to do the basics. Give Nigerian workers 250,000 naira minimum wage. Reverse the fuel subsidy removal. End insecurity. These are just some of the few demands. Release all politically imprisoned persons or detained persons. These things are not hard to do. You
right.
could do it. Yeah.
I'm going to come to those detained persons in a minute, but just in response to the things you say that are not being done. The government has been spelling out what they've been doing to alleviate the hardship. They say agricultural production has increased. They've given temporary cash payments to those who are very poor. They've distributed tens of thousands of tons of grain from the National Reserve. And they're urging people to be patient, but clearly your patience has worn thin.
But where's the proof? It's not evidence in the public. People, you can see it in the eyes of Nigerians that they are hungry. So if he says he's doing that, probably his minions are pocketing whatever it is he claimed to be giving out to citizens. Citizens are hungry. These things are not getting to anybody. The poor of the poorest of Nigerians are not getting these things. People can't even afford 3 square meals per day. So if the president says he's doing an agricultural revolution or whatever he calls it, it is not getting to the people.
Yeah, but he can't wave a magic wand. He's not Harry Potter, is he? He can't wave a magic wand.
We are not asking him to do
well,
magic.
Yeah, but that sounds like what you're asking him
last
to do,
year
to
when,
wave a magic wand, and within a year, everything
when he announced
is
the
sort
removal
of
of the, the removal of the fuel subsidy last year on May 29, while he was being sworn in, he didn't do any magic. He just took the microphone and said, fuel subsidy is gone. And since then, we've got into trouble. So he should do the same thing now and get us back
and say,
into our Eldorado.
Fuel subsidy is back on.
Yes, it's simple as that.
Yeah. Well, of all your demands, and there are quite a few of them, of all your demands, perhaps the most fundamental is your call for the government to address the constitutional foundations of Nigeria, which you say is the basis of the political, ethnic, and development disaster that this country has been facing, and the failure of successive governments to meet the fundamental objectives of security, welfare, etc. You wanted this to be addressed with utmost urgency. Have you heard anything in that regard?
Yeah, we haven't heard it. The president didn't say anything about that at all during his last
But I mean,
speech.
it's the job not so much of the president, but the National Assembly.
Definitely, we are not, but of course it could mean it to the National Assembly to work on that. And the president is not the only person in government that we are facing. We are also demanding good governance from the 36 state governors and the FCT minister, and also the lawmakers. So it's not just about President Tinubu. It's about the Nigerian political system.
And that's why you're taking it to all the states and to make sure that the noise that you make is heard in the states.
Yeah, it has been heard everywhere.
Right.
There have been protests in Kanu, in Rivers, in everywhere.
Right. So what's the situation with your colleagues who've been arrested and are currently being detained? Are they still being held? Because at one point, I think the secret police, the DSS, said they were not the ones holding one of your colleagues, Michael Lenin.
Yeah, that is a lie. The DSS picked Lenin on August 5th at his home in Abuja around 2 a.m. Midnight, and he was taken to a place where we didn't know, but later he was detained at the intelligence response unit of the Inspector General of Police, the former SAS office at Guzape. So, today our lawyers have been there. They've been there since. They went there today. Before I got into the studio, I was just informed that others that were arrested alongside Lenin have been released, but that they got an order from the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, that Lenin must not be released. Right. I don't know why Mr. Ribadu wants to keep Lenin in detention, but he has to come and tell Nigerians why he's keeping him. Lenin has done nothing wrong. Right. He was only exercising his rights. So the government has no reason to detain him.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Are you worried that as voices rise in anger, because, I mean, a lot of the people we saw protesting were angry, perhaps justifiably so, but they were clearly angry. Are you worried that as voices rise in anger, that decorum could unravel and things could get really dark and violent on August the 10th?
Well, we don't think so. We are not a violent people. Even at the Take It Back movement, we are not violent. We have always been peaceful. We didn't just start yesterday. We've always been here, and we've always been peaceful. However, even the pockets of violence that occurred during this last 8 days came from the part of the government, the police, the DSS. The DSS shot at protesters at the National Stadium, the same venue which the government got a court order for protesters to. Of course, the court order has elapsed just yesterday because it was a 7-day ex parte order, and it has elapsed. So despite the fact that we do not even think that such an order should have been given, which infringes on the rights of Nigerians, however, we're glad that it has elapsed, and Nigerians will keep on protesting. We've never stopped, even while the court order was on. We've continued to protest. So the government have been attacking protesters with tear gas, live bullets. Over 40 protesters have been killed across Nigeria since August 1st, since the protest started. On the first day alone, one of the national newspapers reported the second day, on August 2nd, that 17 persons were killed on August 1st. So the person that is not, the person that is not peaceful is the government, not the protesters, not the Nigerian people.
Yeah.
We've been peaceful. I don't think no police officer has been killed. We do not have any arms. We don't have knife. We don't have guns. They are the ones who have been shooting at protesters.
But I mean, given the political panorama against which these protests are taking place in Nigeria, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised by the protests and the way it potentially could whip people up.
Yeah, sure. We are glad that people are waking up.
I mean, whip rather
people
than
up?
wake people up.
Okay.
Whip them up into a frenzy. You see
No,
what I mean?
I do not think so. I don't think it will whip people up into a frenzy. Nigerians are strong people. Nigerians are not cowards. They can't be whipped into frenzy at all.
Well, I mean, looking at the anger that bubbled to the surface, some of it clearly turned into violence and thuggery. I mean, we saw that. Do you think it's your responsibility, the organizers of the protest, to ensure that it is peaceful, or does that responsibility lie with the police?
On our part, we've always told our people to be peaceful, and we've always told protesters. But it is the duty of the government and also the police, to secure lives and properties. So the police should, wherever you see that some persons are looting whatever properties or causing mayhem, you arrest them. Those ones are not protesters. There could be government-sponsored talks. But they are not our people.
Right. But you can understand, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time, I'm just trying to see it from all sides, because it's our job to enlighten the public. I mean, you can see why there might be a bit of nervousness on the part of the government. For example, when you look at Bangladesh, where student leaders and young people have in the past few days led a protest that successfully overthrew the government. I mean, when you see a place like Bangladesh, what comes to your mind?
Hope.
Hope?
Yeah.
Hope in what sense?
That we could achieve more than, we could achieve what we are asking for, and even more than that.
But it begs the question, what are you aiming? What's the end game? What are you aiming to achieve?
The end game is good governance, an end to bad governance. That's the end.
So what can the administration do now to stave off further protests beyond officials sort of snooping at you and snapping at your heels?
They should accede to our demands, reverse the fuel subsidy removal, announce a 250,000 naira minimum wage, release all detained NSAS activists and other politically detained persons.
But, I mean, perhaps releasing detained persons and that kind of thing might be something that can be reasonably achieved. But that's why it's necessary to have a dialogue. I mean, are you aware of the potential damage that could be done to the economy and the reform program and the message that might be sent out internationally to potential investors that Nigeria is, in terms of its fidelity to its policies, is very shaky?
Well, we are not the ones making the policies. It is the government that makes policies. Ours is, we are demanding for good governance from our own government. For example, there have been Boko Haram insurgency in the country for years. ISWAP have been ravaging some part of the northeast. Yet people are still investing in Nigeria. So
but they're not investing in that part of Nigeria.
Well, I was in Adamawa some weeks back. I saw international companies.
Yeah, but Adamawa is nowhere near as bad as the
Borno.
Yeah, the real epicenters. And to be fair, things have improved.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not as bad as it was perhaps in 2014 or 2015 or sort of subsequent years. I mean, it's you know, the insurgencies have gone
but they're
down
still there. Boko Haram there was still a bomb blast in Borno some weeks back. Yeah, so people are still living in fear in the Bay State, Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, and now it has moved into Zamfara and some parts of Kaduna, even in the FCT. You know, there have been banditry everywhere. So that's the duty of the government to, rather than, you know, as like I said somewhere earlier, the Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa, rather than deploying soldiers on the street, he should deploy them to terrorist ravaged areas. We don't need soldiers on the street. This is a protest. Only the police should be there, and probably the NSCDC. And those ones shouldn't even fire tear gas at people, as long as they are peaceful.
Yes, actually, that's an interesting comment you make, because I was with someone the other day and they said, well, look at all the police cars and the military vehicles that are lined up on the streets.
Protest.
Why can't those people go to fight the insurgents and all the other people? Although arguably the military will say that they are doing that. But can you say at this point that essentially your protests have really not achieved anything so far in terms of what you wanted to achieve?
Well, it wouldn't be right to say our protest hasn't achieved anything so far, because if not for anything, it has raised the consciousness of Nigerians.
And that's an important thing.
It is a very important thing. You know, like Karl Marx said, that, you know, the material condition of people is what determines their consciousness. So the material conditions of Nigerians, hunger and poverty, impoverishment, is determining their consciousness at this moment.
And now that you've mentioned Karl Marx, that brings up the issue of Russia and the waving of Russian flags. What's your reaction to that, and your assessment of the way the government has reacted to it?
Well, Karl Marx existed during the Soviet Union. Russia is different from the Soviet Union.
Yeah, but Russia is the Soviet Union boiled down to one country, and the heart of the Soviet Union was always Russia.
Yeah, you're correct, but of course we have nothing to do with the alleged use of Russian flags. And however, that is somewhat immaterial. Why is the government or the security agencies so concerned about, you know, people waving some pieces of clothes around? Those are just mere pieces. We see flags of various countries at hotels. The Russian embassy, for example, if the allegation is true, the Russian embassy is here in Nigeria. It has the Russian flag on the Nigerian soil. Different hotels, several hotels. Oh, what am I even saying? There's a club called Moscow Underground here in Abuja. It has the Russian flag.
Yeah, but the intention is different. That's why when you're in court, they always assess what the motive is. You see what I mean? That's part of the legal process, is establishing motive. Because once you establish motive, then it kind of, it's like a domino effect. I mean, the question is the motive behind waving a flag, Russian flag, at a protest that is aimed against the government.
You know, you had to be shocked that those waving those, because there are few persons, I saw some clips, those waving the Russian flag might be government-sponsored persons. You can't take anything beyond this government. You can't. There might not be people who are even protesting for, you know, against hunger. There might be government-sponsored thugs who only want to, you know, cause mayhem and, you know, give reason for security agencies to clamp down on protesters. But in whole,
but that's purely speculative, isn't it?
Of course, they claim that they are part of us, or, you know, the protest is being sponsored by any foreign power, is also speculative. It is false, even in our own opinion. It is false because no one is sponsoring us, no international body is sponsoring us.
Right, even though you quoted Karl Marx. I mean,
Karl Marx
but in fairness, I mean, that's not anything against you. I mean, Karl Marx is a philosopher.
Definitely.
That everybody, I mean, I've read Karl Marx and a lot of people. He doesn't make me a communist or anything like that. But what kind of a moment would you say this is in Nigeria? How much is this country at a crossroads?
Well, I think this is an awakening moment, you know, for Nigerians and also for the Nigerian government. It is a notice for them to sit tight, the government especially, to sit tight.
You mean sit up?
Yeah, to sit up and, you know,
right.
You know, get things right. Not, just going about traveling, junketing from country to country, getting luxurious cars, building homes, laundering our funds. It's a moment. It is a moment for a call to action. Let people live well. Let them live in peace, and you'd have no problem. Governance is not that difficult. We travel to other countries. We see other countries that are doing well. So they don't do it by magic.
Why do you think it's going belly up in Nigeria here? Why do you think it's going wrong?
I think it's just these people are not interested in developing the country. That is what I believe. They are not interested in they just want to get there and loot whatever they can loot. Because they just take political will to get things done. They don't have that political will. And they are not ready to do it. That's why when you ask them that, why don't you do this? They just say, go and shoot at them. Rather than saying, okay, how do you want me to do it? If you want a dialogue, you don't just say you want dialogue by words of mouth. You come to the Eagle Square. In the presence of all Nigerians, you come and announce, you tell us the policies that you can immediately, the demands that you can immediately meet, and the ones you want us to give you time for you to meet. Not that you call us, we can't go behind closed doors. We don't do that.
So in other words, you're not going to dialogue with them?
No, we are not against dialogue. We're asking the president to come in broad daylight.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to come to. I mean, there are all kinds of issues that would arise for him going to the middle of a protest.
Nothing would happen. He has the security heads. He's not bigger than any Nigerian. He's an elected official. He's a public servant. So it's only right for him to come to the public and talk to the people.
Do you believe that history is on your side and that this million-person march could open up a hopeful path into Nigeria's future, or are you sort of it's just another one of those protests? Because you said, the needle hasn't moved and it's not likely to move.
No, absolutely. History is on our side. Even posterity will be on our side. This is going to...
Well, we can't judge posterity now, can we?
Yeah, but at least we can be hopeful. And of course, when your conscience is right, when you're doing the right thing, you have to be sure that posterity would judge you right. The history will be on our side because we know that this thing that we've started would result in success. It will be successful. Whether the president likes it or not, it will be successful because we are not going to give up. Whether on the 10th of August or beyond that, we won't give up until these demands are met.
Okay, well, I want to thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sanusi, for coming in to talk to us. Abiodun Sanusi is one of the leading organizers of the Take It Back movement, which is the main group behind the protests, and you heard them there announcing that they're planning a 37 million person march on August the 10th, which is 2 days from now. Thank you.